Sorry, there's a cat here. I was trying to come in and say, hey, everyone, but there's a cat, and I would trip over him. So, anyway, it's continuing the month of December with the theme being the best games of 2024. Last week, I talked about, several games that I think are really, really special that came out in 2024. But this week, I'm going to dedicate the entire episode to talk about one game, and that game is my game of the year. Now, it's a little bit controversial because it's a game that got somewhat mixed reviews and hasn't been a giant financial success. But it's a game that I think more people should play. It's a game that I think is really, really special and deserves a lot more attention than it's given. So yeah, let's get into it. Hey, what am I playing? I play a lot of games. I know, it probably ought to be obvious looking at my collection and browsing this channel, but in all seriousness, I play a lot of games. And I don't just play a lot of games, I have played a lot of games. I have been playing video games since the 1970s. Over my lifetime, I've played more games than I could possibly give an accurate figure to. My physical collection alone is getting real close to 10,000 games. Sure, I haven't necessarily played them all. I'm always fighting through my backlog. But my backlog is probably only 100 games or so the vast majority of my collection I've played. Additionally, I have thousands of games digitally spread across many, many platforms. One big problem with playing a lot of games is that you very quickly start seeing how repetitive games are. Not so much that individual games are repetitive, though they certainly often are, but more so that there's a relatively small number of ideas that keep getting repeated over and over again in video games. As a result, I find a lot of games, usually AAA games, pretty tedious. For example, I can't stand playing any of the recent Far Cry games, or Assassin's Creed games, because they're all pretty much the same open-world bullshit. They have cookie-cutter missions that Ubisoft has repeated ever since Far Cry 2 and the Assassin's Creed Ezio trilogy, and I find them so dull and boring. Big AAA games these days tend to be focus tested to the point where all originality and creativity is gone. Much like Hollywood, video game studios are always trying to make the next big thing, generally by regurgitating similar shit to previous giant hits. Everyone wants a live service game that is a perpetual moneymaker like GTA 5. So when I encounter a game that really tries something different, I get excited. Fool's Theory is a video game studio in Poland founded by several former employees of CD Projekt Red. These former employees worked on Witcher 2 and 3, as well as Cyberpunk 2077. The studio was formed in 2015 and initially spent their efforts outsourcing game development, helping make some truly great games, such as Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice and Baldur's Gate 3. In 2022, they announced their first in-house title, codenamed Vitriol, a narrative-driven RPG. This game was eventually revealed to be the Thaumaturge. The Thaumaturge was released for PC in March of 2024. It was ported to consoles later on, and just recently released on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. So what is the Thaumaturge? Well, it's an isometric role-playing game with turn-based combat set in pre-World War I Russian-controlled Warsaw. You play as a Thaumaturge, which is 1 part magician, 2 parts exotic animal trapper. Wait, no, that's not exactly the right analogy. What would a better analogy be? Oh, I know! A Thaumaturge is 1 part magician, 2 parts Pokémon trainer. Seriously, that's the best way to describe this. In the lore of this game, there are creatures called Salutors, which are kind of demons or mythical cryptids.
Morano, hello. Let's see what brought you here.
The Salutors can influence humans, but cannot usually be seen by the humans. Think mythical creatures related to superstitions or folklore, like Krampus or Mothman, and you get the idea. Thaumaturges can see and interact with these Salutors, and with proper discipline, they can capture them and use them, just like Pokémon. These Salutors can be used in fights, unleashing Salutor attacks on unsuspecting victims. Beyond combat, they can be used to influence people by playing on a person's internal flaws or thoughts.
Since we keep following one another around, maybe we should introduce ourselves.
What are you talking about?
You guys are so devoted. Is the pay worth so much hard work? Maybe it's time to fight for a raise.
I don't want to keep mucking around in this crap. Not for this kind of money. Following some spoiled brat around, standing for hours outside people's windows. And God alone knows what for. Not for this kind of money.
Wait up. I'm not gonna stand here on my own with him. Let's talk to the chief.
In addition to the capture and care of Pokémon, I mean Salutors, a Thaumaturge has several psychic abilities. They can detect emotional traces left behind on objects. For example, they can tell how someone was feeling, as well as surface-level thoughts they were having while they were touching something. Thaumaturges in the game are kind of like Jedi in the sense that most people haven't ever actually met one, and many people don't necessarily believe they exist or that they have any special powers. To the people of this world, they are almost as mythical as the creatures they capture. You play as Victor.
And Victor with a W, not a V.
Shulsky, a Thaumaturge who comes from a long line of Thaumaturgists. You grew up well-to-do, as your father was a successful businessman, in Warsaw, while the region was under the control of the Russian Empire. Maybe I should back up and tell you a bit about what was going on in Poland in the early 20th century, the time and setting in which this game takes place. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was one of the largest and most populated countries in the 16th to 17th century Europe. This Commonwealth was a union of 2 regions, the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. The Commonwealth lasted around 200 years. Funny how that number keeps coming up in the fall of various empires. Until a long period of political, military, and economic decline. In the late 18th century, the Commonwealth was partitioned and divided up among neighboring nations, Austria, Prussia, and Russia. This continued for some time, with the borders ebbing and flowing during various events and wars, and by the turn of the 20th century, where this game takes place, Poland was a land divided, with confusing borders and jurisdictions even among its citizens.
Where's this headed?
Warsaw. Russia.
And this is supposedly Georgia. Russia here and Russia there. Russia everywhere, on every map.
Maps change. I'm from
So, from Russia.
Poland.
From which Poland? The Russian one, the German one, or the part that belongs to Austria?
From Warsaw.
The Polish people at this time were suffering from the effects of Russification, which were part of larger attempts by the Russian Empire to assimilate non-Russian people into Russian culture. Schools were being shut down and replaced with imperial ones, religious freedoms were being trampled, and political speech that opposed the empire was being suppressed. While this political and social turmoil was going on, there also was a massive industrialization effort happening all across Europe, and in Poland this was no different. You see in the game, the city of Warsaw is at a crossroads. Infrastructure is being built and the city is being modernized. In fact, one side quest in the game involves settling a labor dispute where workers who are building city plumbing are striking.
Well, this is negotiation, so let's negotiate. You won't finish the job without us. That's the truth.
Mr. Neumeier?
Nicht jetzt. How many times do I have to tell you? This can't be done. It doesn't work like that. That's not how you do Geschäfte.
Listen, sir, we won't give up. Either you can take back the men you fired, or you can say goodbye to the workers you've got left.
You can build these sewers yourself, you lousy capitalist asshole.
Rude!
This is just gutter talk, not negotiations.
The Thaumaturge takes place in Warsaw in 1905, which is a time and place on the verge of massive and sweeping upheaval. Soon the Russian Empire will fall to the Bolshevik Revolution. Soon Franz Ferdinand will be assassinated and plunge the world into the First World War. Soon after that, fascism will rise around Europe, leading way to the next World War. And in the middle of all of this are the people of Poland and Warsaw, eager for revolution and to be free from the yoke of the Russian Empire.
What next?
People! We're about to fight the first great battle that will change the course of this land's history! It will be the cue for a nationwide effort, and will inspire all the partitions to fight!
But the harbor will be ours, right, Edic?
First, we take the harbor, then Warsaw, and then we'll force the Tsar himself to negotiate!
Sergeant, this is getting out of control.
Let's get them, boys!
People! What the foreign power has seized from us, we shall now recapture!
This is the backdrop which sets the stage for this game. The game starts with a train ride across Polish and Russian countryside as Victor travels searching for help. His connection to his salutor has been weakened and seemingly severed, leaving him ill and distressed. He has been seeking help from every shaman and doctor he can find, trying to restore his connection to his salutor and relieve his suffering. He arrives in a tiny village where he has heard of a mystic, a healer who might be able to help him. After petting the dog in the village, oh my god, you can pet the dog, game of the fucking year! Victor finds the man he is seeking inside the local tavern.
Forgive me, sir. Is your name Grigory Yefimovich Rasputin?
The mystic is motherfucking Rasputin. That's right, This game is historical fiction. Hell yeah! Side note, I love historical fiction. Some of my favorite books are historical fiction. So Rasputin hypnotizes you, restores your connection to your Salutor, heals your sickness, makes you feel like 1,000,000 kopecks. You're very grateful and use your special Thaumaturge skills to help Rasputin out with superstitious people in the village who are being plagued by a Salutor, and bam, now you have 2 Salutors. Hot dog, your time as a Pokémon trainer has begun. When you go to send a telegram to your sister, telling her the great news, you discover she has already sent a telegram to you. Your father has died, and she is asking you to return home. You travel to Warsaw by train, accompanied by Rasputin, who just so happens to be going your way. The rest of the game takes place entirely in Warsaw. What transpires next is you get wrapped up in the political turmoil of your home, all projected through the historical fiction filter that this game sets up. A new oppressive governor has been put in place by the Russian regime. This governor views Thaumaturge as a threat and starts to crack down on thaumaturgists. There's several revolutionary groups in Warsaw, each with their own goals. Goals that sometimes overlap, sometimes not. The whole city is a powder keg of oppressed peoples and political machinations. During the reading of your father's will, you discover that he has left everything to your sister, save your father's black grimoire, his thaumaturgic tome, which he left to you. But this tome is nowhere to be found, which launches you on a mission to recover this grimoire and uncover the truth behind your father's mysterious death. The game plays out much like a demonic Pokémon detective story. You use your abilities in your search for the missing book, but also in aid of people who come to you for help. You can get wrapped up in underworld drama when you help your childhood friend who has grown to be a bit of a crime boss. You will hobnob with high society, trying to uncover conspiracies which your father was involved in. You'll even help your uncle, who is with the police force, solve crimes. Uncovering secrets and unraveling the threads of the story through your investigations is incredibly rewarding. The story and plot beats are all well crafted and enjoyable. There's twists and turns, and the story is one of the better ones you'll encounter in video gaming.
That woman was a Gordian knot. I know that she spent years compiling all sorts of compromising material against the Tsar's government. She was a traitor. We were observing her, but she managed to get everything out of her apartment. I need to know if her knowledge could threaten the security of the nation.
If you want something from me, you just need to ask.
I have a better idea. You tell me what you know, and I know where your papa's little black book is. Quid pro quo?
I want to know who stole my father's grimoire.
This time, you go first.
As far as I know, all Svetlana's secrets went with her to the bottom of the Vistula.
Should we take him to the Citadel, Chief?
No, Vanya. We'll finish this here.
Combat is turn-based, but uses a card system for your moves. In many ways, the combat system feels like other card-based battle systems, such as the one found in Slay the Spire, and it's one of my favorite aspects of the game. And the battles are often quite challenging, and really require you to plan your moves carefully. For example, there's no traditional healing like you'd find in other turn-based RPGs. There's no potions or other gaming contrivances for when you get hurt. A few of your Saluteurs can heal, but their heals all come with caveats. For example, up here, the Salutor you start with can heal you based upon a percentage of damage taken in previous rounds. But his heal starts getting diminishing returns the more you use it, healing you for less and less. Enemies generally have traits that give them advantages in battle, traits that can be disabled with the appropriate Salutor or by simply reducing their focus down to 0. Groups of enemies will frequently have synergistic traits that need different Salutors to disable. All of this means that you cannot simply spam your main attack and expect to succeed. You must be strategic, figure out which enemies should be taken out first, and judiciously save some of your utilitarian moves for key moments in battle. My first time hitting a real, non-tutorial battle in this game was bewildering, and I just about bounced off the game as a result. But trust me, if you can move past the steep initial learning curve for combat in this game, soon it all just clicks and all the odd design choices make sense. It never gets easy. In fact, a later potential boss battle in the game is easily one of the most difficult boss battles I've ever encountered. But while the combat is consistently challenging throughout, it's always fair. You never feel like you were robbed because of a bullshit mechanic or an RNG dice roll that didn't go in your favor. Striking a balance between difficulty and fairness is hard, and most games that try it don't get it right. But the Thaumaturge not only nails this balance, it does it with incredibly compelling gameplay. In trying to recover your father's Black Grimoire, you get wrapped up in numerous plots against the Russian Empire. We all know Rasputin's role in one of these plots, but beyond what we know from history, there's several others in the game, including one being driven by a group of thaumaturgists. And the thing that is so awesome about this game is how you, as a player, can choose to be a part of any of these, and act either for or against the Russian Empire. Join the thaumaturgists seeking to free Poland from Russian rule, or lead them to overthrow the Russian Empire entirely. Reveal Rasputin's plans and get in good with the Russian court, or join Rasputin in his religious crusade, being the right-hand man in his fanatical cult. The game gives you the freedom to do all of these things and more. In fact, the game has 12 different endings. And this isn't one of those games where you can save scum near the end and replay the last hour of the game to see all of the endings. No, the vast majority of the endings require a full playthrough due to how little decisions you make throughout the game build up to the tapestry of the final act. And each playthrough can be radically different depending upon these decisions. Seriously, this game puts the role-playing in role-playing game. In my first playthrough, my character grew disenchanted with Rasputin the longer the game went, becoming more and more adversarial with him. I also didn't side with either of the revolutionaries, so it became my goal to thwart Rasputin's plans in the final act of the game. The end result was I ingratiated myself with the Tsar and became the court's thaumaturge. In my second playthrough, I decided to be a real bastard. I became a right-wing fascist, infiltrating the thaumaturgist revolutionaries and toppling the Russian regime, while elevating myself to power and prominence.
No, I don't. Leave me alone. Leave me. Go, demon, demon, leave me!
In my current playthrough, I'm trying to be altruistic and kind, avoiding battle where I can, and trying my best to limit the use of my powers to force my will on others.
Sergei, please wait a moment.
Mr. Shulsky, there are only so many humiliations a gentleman can tolerate. I have reached my limit. Congratulations to you both.
The width and breadth of player choice in this game is astounding, and there's little to no telegraphing what the ramifications of your decisions are. It's incredible, making each playthrough a fresh and new experience. I'm currently working my way through all 12 endings, and I fully intend to play it 12 times at a minimum. This is a game that has pretty much been in heavy rotation on my gaming schedule for the last 9 months.
We're terminating this disaster.
One moment. First, Mr. Shulsky will explain himself.
For my own, freely chosen reasons. I was looking for something here, and I found it. I regret that it was at someone else's expense.
Enough wistful chatter. Will the gentleman with a book be leaving peacefully, or should we show him out?
No need, I can make it to the door. Madame, honored guests.
Remember in the beginning of the video where I said that I play a lot of games, and when I encounter a game that tries something new, I get excited? Well, the Thaumaturge tries to do many different and unique things, which makes it the perfect antidote for anyone who is tired of games all kind of being the same. Immersive world filled with rich lore based upon real-world history? Check.
Or are not adequately remunerated for their work. We want to study, work, make our own choices. We want all of our lives.
Meaty combat lifted from card-battling roguelites, mixed in with turn-based strategy RPG combat? Check. Detective gameplay that makes the Batman games look like Nancy Drew mystery? Check. This game oozes with originality and is really unlike just about anything else out there. Does it always work? Not always. The game isn't a graphical powerhouse, but it can often chug on even the beefiest hardware. Clearly it's not well optimized. It recently launched on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, and suffers from a pretty dramatic graphical degradation as a result. Everyone has full voice acting in the game, and while some of it is good, most of it really isn't. In fact, sometimes the voice acting is comical. Case in point, on more than one occasion you'll encounter street thugs that just straight up have cartoonish New York accents, which are really out of place for a game that takes place in 1905 Warsaw.
Everybody who wants to take him on. All of them against one. Sort of a local tradition. So, you betting there, ain't you?
I'd like to bet on the fight.
On Boschik or on everybody else?
I'll put a ruble on a Barishtik.
Corking choice.
You take IOUs?
Sure, why not? Get writing.
Other times you'll encounter all sorts of random accents that just don't fit.
I won't talk about it out here in front of these boors. Come inside. You're letting him in, Gravedigger? What the hell is going on? Shut your mouths or I won't open till Judgment Day.
And don't get me started about the obnoxiously bizarre voice for the little street urchin boy in one of the Salutar side quests.
And aren't you too old to be talking to us? Maybe you like kids, eh?
So yeah, the voice acting often leaves a lot to be desired. Beyond that, you'll encounter the odd graphical glitch, including this one that has hit me on more than one occasion. See, this game is what I generally call Eurojank, and believe me when I say I use this term lovingly. Eurojank is a term broadly used to describe games from European developers where they aim bigger than their budgets would usually allow. They try to build big, incredible experiences, but on budgets a fraction the size of a typical AAA studio game. The end result is that they just don't have the resources to fully polish their games. Like maybe they have NPCs with broken pathfinding.
Are you ready to follow me, Ranaikse?
Let's go.
Or cutscenes that glitch out, making the characters stand too close when talking.
You'll be responsible!
I mean Hank the traitor.
Hank the traitor? I'm certain I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Thaumaturge is 100% a Eurojank game. It's got all the weirdness and charm, and so very much heart. Sure, the voice acting is all over the place, and sometimes there's a real uncanny valley going on in some of the character animations. But all of these are very minor when you consider all the great qualities this game has. It has an incredible branching story, filled with impactful player choice. It has a unique combat system with real depth and strategy. It's a great detective game, filled to the brim with mysteries to uncover. And it's my game of the year.
Her sadness, heartbreakingly cold.
How can we tame her?
Stop fighting her.
What?
There's no need to resist. Go to her. Let me soothe this melancholy. Let it engulf you.